I used to think betrayal only came once. I was wrong. It came twice. First with Rachel, my best friend in college, who stole my internship. Then again with Cameron, my mentor turned enemy in the office. Turns out, the worst kind of betrayal doesn't scream. It smiles. This is the story of how I stopped being the quiet one and became the woman who smiled back and took everything they thought was theirs. They say art is truth, but in the halls of Meriden College of Fine Arts, truth is just a medium to be manipulated, like charcoal smudged until the original line disappears. My name is Elle, third year, full scholarship, majoring in studio painting. I live in a drafty top-floor dorm room that smells faintly of linseed oil and regret. It's cramped, but it has skylights, and when it rains, I like to pretend I'm inside a canvas. Abstract, messy, a little bit beautiful. My roommate Marin didn't even like art when we met. She was studying psychology back then. Quiet, meticulous, with that kind of clean, curated Instagram life. Smooth hair, minimalist outfits, cappuccinos photographed from just the right angle. We were an odd match. I wore oversized flannels and paint-splattered jeans. My life was always in motion, brushes drying on windowsills, music playing at 3 a.m., ideas scribbled on walls. But something about her calm steadiness balanced my chaos, until she switched majors. "I think I want to try painting," she'd said one night, watching me work on a piece for Professor Langston's advanced studio class. Her voice was soft, almost embarrassed. "You make it look free." I smiled genuinely. I even gave her my old brushes and took her to the supply store downtown. We spent hours in the studio that fall, me guiding her, her eyes wide with wonder as she learned to stretch canvas and mix pigments. She picked it up fast, almost too fast, but I was proud, until her work started to look familiar. At first, it was subtle, a brushstroke technique here, a color palette eerily close to mine. I told myself I was being paranoid. Inspiration is contagious in close quarters, right? Besides, she was still learning. Then came the winter exhibition. Each year, 10 students were selected by an external panel to display their work in the Marrow Gallery, an exclusive off-campus space that often led to commissions, internships, and collectors. I submitted my piece, a large-format oil painting, deeply personal, based on my late sister's journals. It was raw and intimate, something I'd worked on in silence for months. When the list went up, my name wasn't there, but Marin's was. I blinked at the paper stapled to the corkboard. Third on the list, Marin Rhodes. Sister, sister. Number. It couldn't be. I dragged myself to the gallery opening 2 nights later. The room buzzed with wine glasses and wool coats. And there, on the far wall, was my painting. Not a copy, not an imitation. My painting. The exact composition. The identical layering of blues and burnt umber. Even the little torn journal pages I'd collaged into the background. Only one thing was different. Her name on the placard. I remember standing there, the crowd around me blurred, a dull roar in my ears. My fingers clenched into fists so tight my nails bit into my palms. I looked at her, across the room, laughing with Professor Langston. She wore a sleek black dress, her hair pinned up like she was at a gala, not a crime scene. When she saw me, she didn't flinch. She smiled, and that's when I knew. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a theft. And no one cared. The professors praised her vision. The critics called her a rising talent. I was invisible in a room full of people staring at my soul, dressed up in someone else's name. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not the next. I didn't scream or demand she confess. I didn't go to the dean or the ethics board or even post about it on some angry online forum, because revenge, real revenge, isn't noise. It's quiet. It's planned. It's patient. So I waited. I watched. I collected every lie she told and every truth she tried to bury. And in that silence, I began to create again. Not with oils, not with brushes, but with strategy. Because the next time she sees my work in a gallery, it won't be a copy. It will be a reckoning. Marin didn't just steal a painting. She stole a story. I learned that in the weeks after the winter exhibition, when I watched her climb through the art world's golden gates using the key she carved from my heart. Her piece, my piece, was featured in the college newsletter, the local art zine, even reposted by a gallery curator I'd admired for years, and every time I saw it, it felt like a little death. But I didn't flinch anymore, because I was busy gathering pieces of her. Not literally, of course. This isn't that kind of story. I didn't slash tires or slip paint thinner into her turpentine. I didn't need to. Marin was building her pedestal out of lies, and all I had to do was take notes. She started giving interviews, short ones, but enough to raise red flags. My sister and I were so close, she told the Meriden Review, her voice trembling just enough to seem authentic. Losing her was devastating. This piece was how I grieved. Except Marin didn't have a sister. She had a younger brother who lived in Portland and posted skateboarding videos on TikTok. No tragic backstory, no grief, just borrowed pain. Mine. I archived the interview. I saved every article. I started keeping a Google Drive folder titled Exhibit A. I wasn't just collecting evidence, I was crafting a portrait. And portraits take time. Meanwhile, I played the part of the friend, the slightly jealous but supportive roommate. I congratulated her. I helped her prep for her midterms. I even offered to pick up more varnish from the supply store when she was busy networking. I wanted her comfortable. I wanted her arrogant. And oh, did she oblige? She applied for the Marrow Fellowship, a prestigious grant awarded to one final-year student to study abroad for a year in Florence. The application required a portfolio, a personal essay, and a faculty recommendation. Naturally, she asked Professor Langston. "I feel like he gets me," she said, flipping her hair over one shoulder. "He called my winter piece transcendent. He had also called my original painting raw genius. But I let that go. For now." I watched her compile her portfolio in the living room. 10 paintings. 5 of them suspiciously familiar. One was almost an exact replica of the piece I'd hidden in my closet. Unfinished, unreleased, unseen. Until now. "How did you finish it?" I asked, trying to sound curious instead of gutted. She looked up from her laptop. "What?" "That one, with the staircase, and the moths. I thought you trashed it." "Oh, yeah. I found it in an old sketchbook and just kept working on it." She smiled. "It kind of evolved on its own." Of course it did. I waited until she went to bed that night, then opened her laptop. I knew her password. Velvet 89. Her cat's name and birth year. She wasn't exactly a mastermind. Her desktop was cluttered with folders. Fellowship 2025, self-portraits, Ella's rec list. That one stung, and one labeled Inspo. I clicked it, and there they were. Photos of my paintings, screenshots of my mood boards, even a close-up of my sketchbook from last semester. Pages I'd left open on the coffee table when I thought I was alone. She hadn't just copied me. She'd studied me. She had mined my work like a gold rush, extracting pieces of my soul and polishing them until they glittered in her portfolio. That's when I stopped waiting for justice and started building it. The next day, I met with Professor Langston under the pretense of asking for career advice. I just wanted to get your thoughts on a few pieces, I said, laying down a small portfolio of my own. I watched his face change as he flipped through. These are extraordinary, he murmured. The staircase, the color tension. Wait, didn't Marin? He trailed off. I didn't say anything, just watched the gears turn. When he finally looked at me, something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, recognition, maybe even guilt. I thought you stopped submitting, he said quietly. I haven't seen your name on anything this semester. I didn't stop, I said. I was just overwritten. He nodded slowly. I think we should talk more. Maybe after the fellowship decision? I said with a polite smile. Wouldn't want to influence anything prematurely. And I left, because revenge isn't just about exposure, it's about timing, and mine had just begun. I didn't need Marin to fall. I needed her to sign her own dissent. The Marrow Fellowship deadline was approaching, and with it came her most dangerous weapon, confidence. She strutted through the apartment like she already had the acceptance email framed above her bed. Her canvases, half stolen and half hollow, leaned against the living room wall like trophies she didn't earn. I might even get a show in Florence, she said one night, stirring oat milk into her coffee like a queen bestowing cream. Professor Langston says my grief journey resonates. I nearly choked on my tea. I'd spent 6 months in therapy after losing my sister. She'd spent 6 minutes in my journal. But here's the thing about thieves. They don't realize they're leaving fingerprints until it's too late. I started laying the groundwork. Small things, like asking mutual friends questions I already knew the answers to. Was Marin close with her sister? Oh, I didn't know she had one. She doesn't, I said with a faint smile. Not anymore. I left breadcrumbs like confetti. I posted an old sketch of mine, one Marin had claimed as hers, with a time-stamped caption, 2019, the year I painted through grief. It didn't go viral. It didn't need to, because Professor Langston saw it. He messaged me that night. We should talk soon. I think there's been a mistake. Mistake. That word felt like justice cracking its knuckles. Meanwhile, Marin kept building her castle of lies, oblivious to the tremor beneath it. She printed her final portfolio, added the glowing essay about loss and artistic rebirth, and sealed it all in an envelope kissed with delusion. I'm mailing it tomorrow, she said, eyes gleaming. Then it's just a waiting game. Good luck, I said, and I meant it, because she was going to need it. The day after her submission, I visited the studio gallery. I'd asked to speak with the admin assistant, Lyle, under the guise of volunteering. He was soft-spoken, always wore mismatched socks, and had a not-so-secret crush on Marin, which made him perfect. I was just wondering, I said, eyes wide and innocent, how you keep track of all the artwork submitted over the years. It must get confusing with so many students. Oh, we have a digital archive, he said proudly. Every piece, every artist statement, all logged. Even the older ones? Yup. We've got stuff going back to 2016. Wow, I said, pausing just long enough. So, would it be weird if, say, someone submitted something that already existed in the archive? He blinked. You mean like plagiarism? I mean, I'm sure it was a mistake, I said gently. But if you noticed something like that, would you report it? He frowned. Well, yeah, it's policy. I nodded, then handed him a flash drive. You might want to check file 03, I said, just in case. And I walked away. Sometimes revenge looks like storming the castle. Sometimes it looks like giving someone the match and walking away while they light the fuse. By the end of the week, Marin got called in. She came home furious, pacing the living room with her phone in one hand and her ego in the other. They said my portfolio might have a consistency issue. She snapped. Someone filed a concern with the archives. Oh no, I said. Did they say what kind of issue? They wouldn't say, just that some of the work seemed familiar. I bit my tongue. You don't think someone's trying to sabotage me, do you? She asked, eyes narrowing. I mean, it's art school, I said. People get jealous. She nodded, but the first crack had formed. The next morning, she was up early, rummaging through her binders, muttering about timestamps and drafts. It wouldn't save her, because the truth had already begun to whisper, and I wasn't the only one who heard it. Professor Langston asked to see me again. This time, he didn't pretend to make it casual. I've reviewed both portfolios, he said, voice tight. There's undeniable overlap. I stayed quiet. Elle, I owe you an apology, he added. I should have seen it sooner. You did, I said. You just didn't look. He winced. I have to take this to the committee, he said. They'll decide what happens next. I nodded. I trust them. I didn't need to do more, because sometimes the best revenge is watching the truth speak for itself. Cameron was unraveling, not in a dramatic flip-the-desk kind of way. No, she was far too polished for that. But I could see it in the small cracks. The way her voice would tremble slightly when she asked a question in meetings. The way her hand would twitch when someone else got credit for work she used to dominate. And yet, she still wore that perfect lipstick smile. I waited. Because I had learned something from Cameron. Not her cruelty, but her timing. The next step wasn't loud. It was quiet. Like everything else I'd done. Strategic. Surgical. I offered to help with her presentation for the third quarter review. Just formatting, I said. You're so busy, I figured I'd tidy it up. She handed it over without a second thought. After all, I was still her shadow, wasn't I? I didn't sabotage the data. I didn't delete a single slide. I just reordered one graph. And let her walk into the boardroom with confidence while her numbers told a story of steady decline instead of growth. The CFO raised an eyebrow. The room went silent. Cameron, he said slowly, is this correct? I watched her falter, just for a second. But it was enough. She fumbled, backtracked, blamed a glitch. I raised my hand. Actually, I think I might have mixed up the slide order. My fault entirely. The room softened. For me, not for her. Cameron didn't thank me. Later that day, she found me in the stairwell. Her voice was tight. You're not as sweet as you look, are you? I smiled. I learned from the best. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. She just stared at me. This girl she used to brush past in the hallway, who now moved through the office with a little more gravity. Because the truth is, Cameron built her kingdom on fear and favoritism. And I had just rewritten the rules. Quietly, from the inside. Cameron had always been a master of appearances, but when the mask began to slip, it didn't come off in one piece. It shattered. It started with the whispers. She's been off lately? Did you hear she mixed up the Dixon files again? Angela didn't even CC her on the last client memo. I didn't need to say a word. I just let the silence around her grow louder. Cameron still tried to hold on. She turned her charm up to 11, started bringing in pastries on Mondays, complimenting everyone's outfits, remembering birthdays. But it was too late. The energy had shifted, and she could feel it. At first, I thought that would be enough, watching her fade. But then she did something I didn't expect. She tried to turn it on me. It was a Friday morning when the email came in. Subject: urgent. Team conduct concerns. Cameron had reported me to HR. She claimed I was creating a hostile environment, that I had been spreading misinformation and undermining her leadership. For a second, I felt my stomach drop, but only for a second, because I had receipts. Every file, every meeting note, every time-stamped edit, and more importantly, I had witnesses. Angela called me into her office that afternoon. Her expression was unreadable. She gestured for me to sit. "I wanted to get your side of things," she said. So I gave it to her. Calm. Director. I showed her the emails, the Slack threads, the original slide deck from the third quarter meeting. And when I was done, Angela leaned back and nodded slowly. "Thank you," she said. "You can go." On my way out, I passed Cameron. She stood outside Angela's door, clutching her phone like it might save her. Our eyes met. For the first time, she looked small, and I didn't feel sorry. Because Cameron had tried to erase me. But now, piece by piece, her mirror world was cracking. And I was the one holding the hammer. Cameron had gone quiet. No more morning greetings. No more passive-aggressive comments in meetings. No more flouncing into the office with her signature star of the show energy. She was there, but only barely. Her power was slipping, and she knew it. And just like that, the queen of the room became the girl everyone avoided eye contact with. But I didn't stop. Because revenge isn't just about justice, it's about balance. And we weren't even yet. I started taking over small things, offering to lead client calls, volunteering for pitches, stepping into roles Cameron once owned. At first, it looked like helpful initiative, but inside, I knew I was building something. Visibility. One afternoon, I was called into a last-minute meeting. The board wanted to hear from the new lead on our biggest account. Cameron wasn't even invited. I saw her standing by the printer when I walked past, frozen in place like someone had just hit pause on her life. That night, I got a message. It wasn't from Cameron. It was from Sarah, the intern. "Hey, just wanted to say thank you. I see what's happening, and I think you're incredible." I stared at my phone for a long moment, because once I had sent that same message to Cameron. I had once believed in her, worshipped her even, but she hadn't just betrayed me. She had shown me what not to become. And now I wasn't just undoing her legacy, I was rewriting it. In my name. Angela called me again the next week. This time her voice was lighter, warmer. "We're looking to expand," she said, "and I want you to be part of that future. Are you ready for something bigger?" I smiled. "Yes," I said. "I think I am." Cameron wasn't mentioned, not once. The office felt different now. Lighter, quieter, like the storm had passed. Cameron's desk sat empty for days before HR finally confirmed what everyone had whispered. She had taken a leave of absence, indefinitely. There was no grand farewell, no dramatic exit, just absence. A silence louder than any slammed door. I didn't feel triumphant. Not exactly. There's no parade for revenge, no applause when the villain disappears. Just space and a chance to breathe. I walked past her desk on the way to my new office. Yes, my office. A window view. My name on the door. A team of juniors who actually asked me for guidance now. The intern Sarah brought me coffee. "The client loved your pitch," she said. "They're signing tomorrow." I thanked her, but my eyes were on the hallway, on the echo of footsteps that no longer came. Cameron had been my mentor, my tormentor, my shadow. And now, I was standing in the light. Angela stopped by as I was packing up for the day. "You've done well," she said. "This place is better with you in charge." And just like that, the chapter closed. No confrontation, no screaming match, no final bitter words, only silence. And sometimes, that's the loudest revenge of all.